Isabel, very good evening everyone. So tonight we're going to explore the topic of clearly communicating complexity. And by the end of the presentation we'll have some techniques at hand on how to convey a very complex message or topic just a little more simply so that everyone can understand you. So I'm going to begin by asking pretty much a very simple question to the room, which is, what do you do? What's your job title? What's your job title, please?
Assistant Director.
Assistant Director. What does that mean? Okay. Yumi, what's your job title, please?
I'm an IT Project Manager.
What does it mean?
Deliver IT products to the business.
Interesting. Pascal, what do you do?
Project Manager.
For?
The NHS.
Interesting. Anyone else want to volunteer? Claudia?
I'm a front-end developer and I basically design websites from buttons to lists to everything.
That's getting a little bit better. Like one last one.
Okay, I'm a publisher. I publish books and applications in the educational sector.
So we've had 5 people here telling us what they're doing for a living. And for some of them, they actually were unable to explain very simply what it is that actually their job entailed. What I'm trying to illustrate by this complex is that we live in a society that is very specialized, that needs a lot of skills in order to work together. And it has got to the point where someone asks you, what is it exactly that you do? You just simply cannot answer by providing a simple answer because it just seems too complicated. What you do seems too complicated, almost too boring, and just people just ignore it. I quite like what Claudia just did because she immediately started to simplify what she was doing. So she's actually used one of the techniques that we're going to explore and practice in kind of small groups very later today. The other thing that I just wanted to mention as well is we live in a society that's ever more complex. It's like a web that is becoming denser and denser and denser. It's almost like this game where there's a web and you just have to find the exit. And it is very difficult because the web is getting denser, thicker, and there's so many strands interacting together that you just don't know how to find your way or to get your point across, and you just don't know how to find your way among this spider web. It's almost as if you're just entangled in it, because society is very complex, we need to do a lot of things. Even simple topics like the NHS, for example, or transport in London, can become really complicated really quickly, because nothing is simple and everything seems to be seemingly complicated. The question therefore is how can you just cut across in a way that everyone in your audience will understand you, what you mean, and what is it exactly that you're doing, that you're proposing, or that you're trying to offer to this person. And we are going to use an acronym for the techniques we explore today. This acronym is SAVE. S-A-V-E. And we're going to start off with the S first. What do you think the S is for?
Simplify.
Simplify indeed. Can you tell me more, Fahad?
Put me on the spot there.
It's you, Krishna.
I shouldn't answer, I guess, is the point.
Tell me, how would you simplify something very complicated?
You would find an analogy for it, one
We'd
way.
find an analogy, but we're going to get into analogies later. So, anything else? Any more
Put it
ideas?
in simpler language with no jargon.
No jargon, Oriana?
Break it into small pieces.
You break it in small pieces. Any other techniques that we can use to convey a very complex message, to simplify complex
Rephrase.
Sorry?
Rephrase.
We can rephrase it. Rephrase it in what way?
Look at the sentence and see if there is any stuff that can be taken out and to serve the clarity.
So yeah, you just cut it down. You going straight to the point.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Yes, please.
You can try and find the salient points of,
So the salient point. So what is it really? Getting to the meat of the subject. Again, getting straight to the point. What else could we use?
Give an example.
We're going to get into examples later. Let's just really focus on the whole concept of simplifying a message first. Any more ideas? Any final ideas?
Short summary, not long summary, short.
Short summary, not a long summary, so just cut it again, cutting it down and making it denser. Claudia?
Start with the end result, not the process, how we get there.
Start with the end result, not the process, really. So what's in it for me, basically? So S is essentially for simplification, and there's a number of techniques that we can actually use to simplify a message to get it dense. So the first one is to go straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush. What is it exactly that what you're talking about? What is it exactly that you're doing? For example, when Claudia was talking about their job, she just talked about website. So immediately we understood it's about website because everyone can relate to website. When Pascal described their job, she mentioned the word NHS. Again, NHS is a term that we all understand. It goes straight to the point, and that just finds a point of commonality across pretty much everyone here in this room. Starting with the end result is a very good one. We could almost frame it as this is the consequence of inaction in this topic, or these are the consequences of action. So go straight to the point, because there's no need to frame everything in a nice language, because it wastes time, and if the other person is maybe not a native English speaker, they may not understand it very well. The other point that was suggested by someone in the audience is to break it down into small parts. Henry Ford had a very famous saying about industrial engineering. Does anyone know what it is?
Anything's easy if you break it down into small parts.
Everything is easy if you break it down into small parts. Do you play Civilization by any chance?
I used to not make tricks.
That makes sense. This is yeah, because this is a quote when you discover combustion, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Oh God, he's got some he's got some good taste here. We're going to exchange some strategies later. So break it down into smaller parts. Really make it into bite-sized chunk that we can just digest at length. Because otherwise, it's going to fly above our head. And something that will be related to breaking it into smallest part is just speaking slowly. If, for example, you're on stage, you have to make a speech or a presentation on a complex topic, speak slowly. Give us time for the audience to really understand what is it that we're trying to say, what's the speech about, so then we can take the message, we can understand the message and perhaps ask a question on it. The third techniques was kind of alluded to in rephrasing is to ask a question, would a 12-year-old understand what I'm saying? A friend of mine had a saying that if you want to learn a topic in science from scratch, you're not going to buy a textbook on it, you're just going to buy a science encyclopedia that's for teenagers or maybe children, because there will be loads of pictures in it, there's not going to be any formulas, and everything will be a lot simpler to understand. I was looking at some stuff in public speaking recently, and there's apparently a metric that we should aim when we write something, when we do a speech, so that a 12 or a 14-year-old person will understand. When it gets above that, some people 16, 18, some people do understand, but some people sadly do not understand. So keep it simple. Would a 12-year-old really understand the topic and what I'm talking about? And we will be practicing this skill in a couple of minutes. The last one is really have a clear structure. I've heard a lot of speeches at Toastmasters and outside of Toastmasters. And one of the key projects we teach in the Competent Communicator Manual is the importance of a speech structure. And how many points do we have in our speech? Main points?
3.
3. Why 3 and not 4?
It's easier to remember.
It's easier to remember. The way I like to frame the 3 and not 4 is the triangle thing. If it's just 2 points in the speech, it's a seesaw. So it just becomes a bit like that. It's hard to equilibrate. If it's a square, well, if we look at the engineering term, a square is actually not a very strong structure. But if it's a triangle, triangles are actually the strongest structure that exists when bearing forces. If you look at the roof in this room, this is actually a good example of a triangle. Why is the roof triangle? Well, you have the pillar because it's going to support the weight if there's snow or anything on it. So a 3-point structure is usually the most effective way of conveying a message. You can also use a chronological structure, for example, or if explaining, for example, how a piece of machinery works, you start off with the top, with what it does, and then you just start to delve down into the detail. So we've covered the S. What's the A?
Analogy.
Analogies indeed. And this is where we're going to get to have some fun. I'm going to split the room into 5 different groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember your number, because we have all the 1s over there, the 2s over there, the 3s over there, 4s there, and 5 at the front of this. One, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We are 5.
You're 5 too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to play a game where we're all going to be working finding analogies.